Audience participation, okay, show of hands. How many people here would like to double their income? Oh, excellent. That's easy. Get a second job just like the one you have right now. Or you could learn how to persuade with a story. Consider this. Humans are hardwired for stories. Science has revealed that storytelling is the way to persuade on an emotional level. Interesting fact, many big corporations, talking FedEx, Kimberly-Clark, Microsoft, are hiring storytelling experts to come in and teach their executives how to tell relatable, persuasive stories. And when I say humans are hardwired for stories, I'm talking science. And when I'm talking science, what I'm really talking about is psychology. There is some psychology involved here. There's psychological reasons why there are 8 great stories that humans want to hear and in fact need to hear. It was at this point in my seminar when my son, Jordan, he's 25, commented to me. He said, "Dad, that's Sigmund Freud, and Freud's theories have been widely discounted. You're actually talking about Carl Jung and Jungian archetypes." And I said to Jordan, "Shut up. I can't find a Carl Jung puppet." Let's talk the 8 great stories. The 8 great stories are the monster story, the underdog story, the comedy story, the tragedy story, the mystery story, the quest story, the rebirth story, and the escape story. We'll talk more of those. So those are the 8 great stories that humans are hardwired for and that you need to be telling. Let me take you on a little trip down memory lane. It was 2 years ago. I was in Los Angeles. I was in one of these big LA high-rises. I had just put on my Persuade with a Story seminar at a big law firm in Los Angeles. And John, the managing partner, one of those real old school gentleman kind of guys, took me back to his office. And in his office, there was all this movie memorabilia and posters and props. And it turned out John's father and John's grandfather were big Hollywood producers. And they went back, the family was in the business all the way back to the silent films. And John said to me, "You know, Grandpa always said, we only make 8 movies in Hollywood." And I never knew what he meant until today. So this is what Hollywood is using, because they know you want these stories. They know you need these stories. Here are those stories again. The overcoming the monster story. This is when you tell a problem solution story. There's the underdog story. This is the rags to riches story, the David versus Goliath, the Cinderella story. Oh, and I have ruined movies for my family. I mean, we'll be watching a movie on the couch and it'll be some Disney movie and the father rat goes to the son rat and says, "Son, I know it's been very difficult for you ever since your mother died." And my family goes, "Underdog story, rat wins in the 3rd act." Or you know, the cheerleaders come on the scene. You know, they're all dressed in black and they go, "Oh, this is not over. We're going to see you in nationals." And my family goes, "Antagonist, showdown, 3rd act, blonde cheerleaders win." So it can ruin movies for you. We know how movies end now when you know the stories. There's the comedy story and the tragedy. This is not about being funny or sad. This is about how you solve a problem. If you solve a problem with a wacky idea, "Hey, I'm an actor who can't get a job, so I'll dress up in drag and be on a soap opera." Tootsie. You know, that's a comedy. If you solve it by taking a shortcut against the laws of nature, society, man, "Oh, I'm a high school chemistry teacher and I don't have enough money and I'm dying of cancer. How will I take care of my family?" "I know. I'll make meth in an RV in New Mexico. What could possibly go wrong?" Yeah, Breaking Bad, tragedy. Comedies and a happy ending, of course. Tragedy ends with, shooting everybody, say hello to my little friend, and it's death. Yeah, think Hamlet, think Othello, think Lear. Okay, the mystery story. If you're telling something with a riddle, You're cracking the code. You're unlocking secrets. You're telling a Sherlock Holmes story. It's mystery. Quest is when you're going after a prize. Escape story. This is when you're in a normal place, you go to a crazy place, and then you got to get out of crazy town and you get back to a normal place. Think Alice in Wonderland. And final is the rebirth. What was dead has come back to life. A redemption story is this type of story. So those are your basic stories. There are only 8. No, I'm going to stand corrected. There is a 9th story. And there's a 9th story, and I call it the grandpa story. Well, we were taking the hogs up to Cumminsville, and we stopped for blueberry pie. They sure have good blueberry pie, but not as good as the strawberry rhubarb pie that your Aunt Myrtle makes. Myrtle moved over to Montana. Don't know what happened with that general store. Where is this story going? Unfortunately, that's how many people tell stories. You sort of tell stories, we don't know where they're going, we don't know what kind of story it is, we don't know why you told the story, what the lesson is. You need to use one of the 8 great stories. Let me give some more demonstrations on it. The first one is that overcoming the monster story. This is a 3-headed dragon. This is the oldest story. This is the story we told around the campfires to warn people. We still make them today. The movie Jaws is an overcoming the monster story. I'll give you Jaws in 30 seconds. Hey, everybody get into the water. It's good for tourism. There's a shark. Everybody get out of the water. This isn't good for tourism. We're going to need to kill that shark. I have a boat. I kill sharks. You're hired. I killed the shark. That's not the real shark. I'm going to need a bigger boat. That is Jaws. Beowulf. Beowulf's the same story. Hey, the Vikings are having a good time in the Viking Hall. Sounds pretty good. Oh no, a monster comes in every night and eats a Viking. That's not so good. My name's Beowulf. I kill monsters. You're hired. I killed the monster. That's not the real monster. You killed its baby. The real monster is its mother, and she's ticked. That's Beowulf. Okay, so if you have a problem-solution story to tell, then you're telling the overcoming the monster story. I'll give you an example. I've got a friend named Patty Vogan. You'd love Patty. She's very energetic and bright. She was an entrepreneur herself. Now she's head of a Vistage group. This is a peer community of CEOs, largest peer-to-peer organization in the world, 22,000 CEOs. So she's in Orange County, California, meets regularly with CEOs. Well, what part of her job is she needs to persuade CEOs to join the group. And she does it with telling a story. I'll give you a version of it. We'll call it David's story. Funny thing about David is David went from almost closing his doors to getting his dream of owning a 55,000 square foot building. The story starts when David joined the group and he was having problems with diversification, and then 2008 hit and he was in serious trouble. And it became obvious that he needed help. So the Vistage peer group got together a Tiger team of 5 members. The Tiger team came to my house on Saturday night. I made him a big Italian dinner. We digested the food and digested the financials. The Tiger team found several areas where David could increase short-term profits. They also found different places where he could slash expenses. Month after month, things started to improve, and then he started making profit after profit. And in the end, he was able to buy, yes, a 55,000 square foot building. David had a blind spot. We all do. But he took care of his monster problem by getting the wisdom of the team together. So I guess the moral of the story is Vistage works. Okay, it's not Star Wars, and it doesn't have to be. But it's a story where there was a hero, just like the prospect she was talking to. There was a nemesis, which was the economy of 2008. The hero was like us in that he was fallible. He had some blind spots. We can all relate to that. She did not make herself the hero of the story. Very wise. She didn't even take the mentor credit. She gave it to the Tiger team. All she did was just bring them together and make them a great Italian dinner. She did a lot more than that. But there also were word pictures there that you could see. In fact, in Hollywood, we call what he got the visible finish line, a 55,000 square foot building. You could see that in your mind. That's the power of telling the monster story. Okay, next story. Oh, okay, so who am I? Who am I? Indiana Jones. Thank you. I know. The resemblance is remarkable. If you're on a quest for the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, whatever he was looking for in India, I couldn't figure that picture out. If you're on a quest for something, then that's a quest story. And, oh, by the way, his name wasn't really Indiana. Trivia, anybody know what his name really was? Henry, thank you. Professor Henry Jones. That's why my kids gave me my Professor Henry Jones Lego keychain here. So that's the quest story. I mean, if you're telling it like my book, How to Close a Deal Like Warren Buffett, that's a quest story. There's a lot of books about Warren Buffett, the investor. There was never a book about Warren Buffett, the deal maker. And yes, I did bring a few copies of the book. If anybody wants to buy one, yeah, thanks. If you want to buy one, I'm happy to autograph it for you. If you buy two, I will come to your house and read it to you. Done. Okay. The next story. You know what these are? What are these? The ruby slippers from Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. The most dysfunctional, whacked out movie ever made. And you all put your children in front of the TV set every year to watch it. If I was going to write the DVR info button plot summary of this movie, The Wizard of Oz, it would be, girl arrives in strange land and kills, makes 3 friends and kills again. That is the plot of The Wizard of Oz. Some people call it the ultimate chick flick, 2 women fighting over a pair of shoes. But that's a little harsh. But I'll tell you, I think the bar to be the good witch is very low in Oz. Because Glinda, what was Glinda's advice to Dorothy at the end so she could get what she wanted to go home? What do? Click your heels together 3 times and say, there's no place like home. Everybody. There's no place like home. Did it work? Yeah, it worked. She went back home. But we could have used that advice when the house landed on the witch to begin with. No, Glinda's advice at the start was, I want you to follow this yellow road through a haunted forest, through a poisoned flower field, and get into a fortress. Find the man running the fortress and do whatever he says. He was a con man, and what he wanted her to do was attack a bigger fortress on a mountain to kill a wicked witch who was guarded by flying monkeys. If I'm Dorothy, I'm looking for a bucket of water for that biatch right about then. But no. Oh, and people are confused about this movie. They think it starts in black and white, goes to color, and then ends in black and white. That's just Kansas. Okay. Last month when I was in Kansas, I did not tell that joke. If you're telling an escape story, then this is what it's about something that was normal, it went crazy, and then it got better. I have an author, his name is Bruce Heller. He wrote a book called The Prodigal Executive. It's how executives sometimes get off track, and with coaching, they get out of crazy town and they get back to perform. Okay. Usually you're telling stories about your clients that you've helped, your success stories. There is one story you need to tell where you're the hero. It's your story. So I'm going to demonstrate that right now, and it's my story. It is a rebirth story. And it goes something like this. I'll never forget the day Gary Hawk, my business coach, took me to lunch, and he asked me the question, what is your exit strategy? Oh, I'd been waiting for someone to ask me this question. I have an MBA. I had grown this advertising and public relations agency, and I had an exit strategy. I said, Gary, let me tell you what it is. I'm going to grow this business for 10 more years. It's going to be running like a top. I'm going to find a strategic buyer and sell the business to them. Then I'm going to go out and help independent professionals, consultants, small business people attract clients, because it's hard and it's difficult. It's scary for them. I have cracked the code. I know how to do it. Gary said, wow, that was not the answer I was expecting. Do you mind if I ask you a few follow-up questions? I said, go ahead. He said, how would you do this? And I said, well, I would write books, and I would give speeches. I would put on seminars. I would network. I would align myself with a college, someplace with lots of trees and water. I think it's in Oregon. Gary says, okay, specific. That was good. So second question, because you sound very passionate. I said, I am. He said, why are you waiting 10 years to follow your passion? Ugh. That was a gut check question. So I said to Gary, what your clients say to you, I did what you would do in this situation. I lied. I said, well, it's because we've got these contracts and these employees and this mortgage and the lease, and there is a wolf at my door. Every day I have to get past the wolf at my door to keep this business going. By the way, I love this wolf. I got it at IKEA. It comes with grandma already inside. Okay, Gary knew I was lying. He knew the truth. It was fear. Fear never sleeps if you're in business for yourself. Fear never sleeps because we have the freedom to be anxious every day about our business. But he let me off the hook. He said, well, let me ask a third question. How would you get started in a small way? And I said, well, I would put on a lunch and learn seminar. I would invite these people to come in, and I will buy the ham sandwich, and I'll tell them everything I know in an hour and a half about how to attract high-paying clients. So that's what I did. I took the last $2,000 I had in my business checking account, and I bought invitations, postage, and ham sandwiches, and I sent the invitations in the mail the week of 9/11/2001. Yeah. So you know what happened when the jets hit the towers and the Pentagon, and what happened to business in America. 5 of the 10 biggest public relations and advertising agencies in San Diego went bankrupt. Many of them just survived, and they were a shadow of their former selves. One told me he didn't write an invoice for 90 days. A funny thing happened at my agency. At the end of the month, my conference room was full of people who wanted their ham sandwich and to hear what I had to say. So I poured my heart out. Oh, the extent of my intellectual property, by the way, I brought it, was 29 bullet points. This was the handout you got that day. How to get clients. I poured my heart out for an hour and a half and then made a big mistake. I said, are there any questions? Yes. Henry, how much would you charge to coach us on how to do this? Well, Gary never asked me that question. I had no business model. So I PFA'd, I pulled from air. And I said $5,000. And next month, well, they said, will you take a check or credit card? Next month I said 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Price didn't matter. It was the size of the company and how much of the heavy lifting they wanted me to do. changed our whole business, found a home for the clients, found a home for the employees, and started doing all those things I said. I've written 8 books on the subject. I have done over 60 seminars around the country on the subject. I speak to thousands of people a year. This story, though, isn't about me. It's about you. Because I'm going to ask you the same 3 questions. How would you do all this? Well, we gave you the list. You're going to start persuading with a story. You're going to use one of the 8 great stories. You're going to use public relations to get the message out there. 2, what are you waiting for? Why are you getting ready to get ready? Why are you fixing to do this? You need to start now. So 3, how would you start in a small way? Well, this is what I suggest. Pick your success story, your best success story, and then figure out which of the 8 great stories is it. And then, with family and friends, start to practice telling that story. It's like a comedian. Chris Rock, before he went on the Academy Awards, spent a month going to little clubs in Hollywood, given his routine. He wasn't going to go in front of 1 billion people until it had worked in a small room. So you need to try it out. You need to work on it. It's like the old joke. You know the old joke about the guy in New York asking directions, and he says, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. So that's what you need to do. You want to double your income? Learn how to persuade with a story.